Hey everyone. So welcome. This is Jeff. He is a very cool, how would I describe you? Like new father, new man, that I've been working with for a good few years now. It's actually kind of lost track. And along your journey, I've seen, so much of like what I call the unraveling and getting rid of ego and making magic within yourself, but then also outwards as well. And you're there's a few circling around me more now of men who are ready to look at themselves and own I'm it, and therefore I go outwards from coming from within. So in saying that, along the path I stumbled into, Jeff, all of a sudden, you weren't doing it since we started working. All of a sudden, it would have been great to have recorded it. You were saying, oh, I'm doing this tremoring. And I will put it out there. There is a modality in tremoring, but in the name of the new way and going forth without needing courses and to follow someone else's prescribed way, because we're all unique and you've all got a gift inside you in that uniqueness. That's where I'm going to ask some questions today to Jeff to hear a little bit more about it, just to see if it sparks anyone else off. Yeah. So I asked you just before and I said, no, hang on, pause. Have you got any definition of tremoring or what you would say to someone else as far as what it is, even in the briefest form, like in the briefest summary?
It's your body tremoring when it senses energy movement, and sometimes so I can use to feel energy in others, feel energy blocks in myself. So it's really a sensing thing, and tremoring happens when energy gets released from my body.
Yeah.
So it's like an indicator or a measure that something's moving, that something's releasing. And for me, it sort of started from a healing point of view. It started when I was having sessions and had to go back in the past and had to try and release anger or release something. And I have great difficulty trying to touch or to get to my emotions and release them. But when I did that, I started tremoring. My body started shaking. And then what I've realized is that's actually the body, that's actually how I feel energy coming out.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. And I think that's tapping into the next question, how you ended up doing it. That's probably what I didn't know. And so then let's go on, because I feel like you've probably got more to say on some of the other questions. Next one, how it's helped you in your life. Anything in particular that you are a changed man because of it?
Yeah. So there'll be certain circumstances or events or instances where you just get swamped with emotion, or you get overwhelmed, or you couldn't move forward, or you feel this emotional charge. And what I can do now is take myself to that point and feel the emotion, and then I can let it up. And through tremoring, and the next time I'm in that position, I don't get the same reaction. So then I can observe the situation without being affected by the emotion.
Yeah, like I kind of call it charge, because you go, tremoring, it almost is, it's just energy basically, hey, or charged energy. So that's one thing, is you've been able to basically, like what I call weeding. It's the same thing, letting emotions out. Once you've done it in that scenario, then the next time you come around, you don't have that same charge. So therefore you attract things totally differently in your life. Any examples or thoughts around that, how your life has changed?
Well, right now, like I'm a little bit nervous about speaking in front of people, so I can feel like a little bit of charge like in my face now.
Yeah.
So what I can do is I can just focus on it.
Yeah.
And then I can start letting it go.
Yep.
I sort of breathe and I can feel it.
Yeah.
It's starting to let go around here now. Now I have less tightness in my face.
So cool.
It's coming up a little bit more here, so I can keep going.
Yeah,
it's not coming up, but I can just focus on it and then tremor it, and then
So when I saw you do that, I think go backwards. Were you as good at releasing it like that from the very beginning, or has it been like a snowball effect of being able to do it more easily, more efficiently, and through certain parts of your body?
Well, it was a bit more involuntary at the beginning, so it would just be something that would happen when I was trying to do it. But now I can consciously bring it on. So as you get further on, you can sort of like even like feel charge in my field. So if I've got, it's actually feeling too bad. I've got a bit in my neck now, so I can just focus on that and go, all right, let that go.
Yep.
That's what that one's going. So you can do it within your body, within, and then in your field as well. So when you sort of feel that stuckness somewhere, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Awesome. I'm thinking of many questions. One thing I hear people asking questions. So does that mean I don't have to release emotion? Do you want to talk on like where emotions have come into your life, you know, since you've started doing this and what type of role they play for you in the heart energy? Does that make sense?
No, you say that again? Sorry.
Okay. So like around emotions, I know an answer, but I'll get you to say it. How it's been like as far as feeling sadness or anger and all of that emotionally since you've been doing the tremoring. I can feel women saying, so does that mean some people can just tremor it out and they don't ever have to feel emotion? What's your experience been with emotions, you know, as you've
I
moved
think
into
there's some things that you can tremor out. Like if there's it's more like historical events which you don't feel the emotion that gets stuck in your body. It feels like you can tremor that out, like stuff that needs to be revisited.
Yep.
You know, it almost feels like it's a tool that's used that we need to fast track to get stuff out of our system. And when people like myself who can't feel stuff, it's like a tool that we have to like clear ourselves out, and I can use that.
Yep.
Having said that, there are some things which I think you just actually have to go through and do.
Yep.
Like you can't tremor everything out. There are some things in life that you have to go through. And I'm just thinking about the other day is that, yeah, you can't tremor away everything. You actually have to live it. But some things in the past that are done and in the history, you can tremor those out.
Yes. Okay. So when you say when you some things you have to live it, are you meaning feeling the emotions or what were you meaning by that?
Well, you actually have to go through, have a conversation with someone, or
Yes. Yeah.
you actually have to go through and have experience. And then in that time, you have to feel the stuff that comes up.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
important to feel it. So you can't sort of tremor away these future things like, I've got this thing I have to do. And
Yeah.
some things you actually have to go through, some things you can tremor. And
Yeah.
generally, things in the past you can tremor out. But things that you know you have to do and you're feeling nervous about, you can't. Yeah, you're nervous about having a conversation with someone, you can't necessarily tremor that out. You've actually got to go through it. It's
Yes.
just
In saying
everything.
that, can you pre-tremor some nervousness out before you
Oh,
talk?
you can yeah, you can definitely make it.
Yeah.
You can definitely make it easier when you get there. Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I should back up and say is how you work is similar to what I'm teaching the women as far as looking at what experience you're having, where does that reflect back to, you know, childhood, whatnot. And, you know, they will go back and go, oh, yeah, I feel these emotions and I'll bring that up. We basically do the same thing in the session is talk about, okay, what's coming up for you? Where does that map back?
Mm-hmm.
Then you go, oh, yes, instead of, oh, yeah, I'm feeling anger. Oh, yeah, I've got charge, and you let the stuff up. But it's still that consciousness of these are the themes I'm exploring. Those are the experiences I've had in the past. This is where, you know, my day-to-day actors are reflecting this stuff. You're literally just letting the charge up by tremoring instead of emoting, I call it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have seen you, like I'll just add, at a certain point, and I feel like it's been, you know, some scenarios like with your children when it's like I can't even think of what it would have been, but you go, oh yeah, that brings up emotion, because it's like, you know, certain people in certain scenes will bring up the emotion, and as you say, yeah, there's some things that probably are meant to be felt. And or yeah, what else? I'm just trying to think if there's any particular for you where you've gone, oh yeah, I have felt the emotion, or even be able to put your finger on it too. Yeah, that emotion I can feel.
Yeah, sometimes I do feel the emotion. There's some things that I can feel, and some
Yeah.
things I can't. I have trouble feeling anger. Like I've
Yes.
disassociated myself with anger. So yeah, I really find it. There's some things that trigger off anger, but for me to actually go and try and bring it up, it's hard. But I can
Yeah.
tremor it up.
Yeah, exactly. So that's cool. And I feel like you have said since you've started the tremoring, you have been able to then tap into your emotions more easily, you know, or whether it's, you know, just divine timing or whatnot, that it has come. But you can see it's not your primary tool because I see you more in the star energy than the heart. Um, as far as heart, I always say feeling and communicating, and as what you said before, the communicating is yeah, one thing you can't avoid.
Well, I'm going a little bit of tangent. When you're talking that, I'm saying that the tremoring helps me remove layers, and then I'm actually feeling more deeper stuff. So I think it's making more things accessible. Like you have to clear out certain things in order to get to stuff. So I am feeling different things, but I think it's because I've got access to those emotions, whereas you had all these blocks and things at the front and the outside that protected it or shielded you from getting
Yeah,
this.
I can feel that. I feel that.
I was letting all these layers go, and then I'm getting access to other emotions. Yeah.
And I will just say, in a nutshell, you're a changed man from the fortnights I used to see you, and you were shaking the stuff out. It was like you were dropping cloaks of ego, I say, bang, 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 to being so much, you always were good for looking at yourself, but you've just become more empowered. And then in your life, I don't know if you can name anything in particular that's really changed by you having, dropped your charge. Anything to note that's been short of a miracle?
Making better decisions. I feel that it's easier now to look at a path forward and get a feeling about whether it's light or heavy without being clouded by everything else. So I feel like I'm clearer and I can make better decisions is one thing. And I think just the main thing is you're not walking along constantly getting bombarded with all these emotions that overwhelm you all the time. So it's a lot more, you can be a lot more peaceful, and a lot more connected, and a lot more discerned, in control about what goes on in your life rather than being controlled by these emotions.
Yeah. And I know the word you said at one point was I'm centered. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I see. It's like a stick. It's gone and bang, you're centered, which to me has then had the direct result on relationships, with people, because you are more centered, then naturally you are more empowered, and relationships to me have gone so much better than what they would have without it, like 10,000 times millions. Would you agree?
There's certain things that I couldn't bring myself to do before.
Yeah.
Like the thought of doing something would just be too overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to take actions now that I just couldn't contemplate doing before.
Yeah. 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 I'm just looking at anything else. Before we wrap up, we'll just keep it short, and then at worst, at best, we do another one or whatever. Today, about how to get started. You've explained it a couple of times to me, or at least. Would you be happy to just do and say something to show anyone who wanted to get started your process of exactly what you do, so that other people can see?
For me, a lot of the energy is stuck in your body and you can feel it. I'll give.
Yeah.
And one way of releasing it is the body. What I've noted is that I think it's sort of relevant to say that I have used the healing to help other people. It's not relevant for now. But but in that, it's when the body takes pressure, or when there's something squeezed, the body lets go. And so what I can do is do that myself by seeing it.
Yeah. Do what you need to, if it's easier standing or sitting.
So like one way of releasing something is going, I've got any charge somewhere, and I can sort of sometimes just sit and like move stuff around, and I've done a bit. Okay, here it is. So if I go there, it's squeezing a muscle which is sore, and that's going to tremor out for me.
Yeah.
So I can just move.
You actively squeeze that muscle.
Squeeze it, yep. And so that's just releasing tension or tightness in the body just by moving in points. And so I was thinking also, like when you want to do yoga, things like when you do that much, but when you breathe, breathe in, and then like squeeze at the top. That can like let go. And so the breath work can also help. So when you squeeze when you breathe right out and you squeeze, and you hold that squeeze with no breath, then after a while I feel it come out. So that's also so just doing yoga in general is really good for releasing, I find, because for me, I get the signal that I keep tremoring when I hit spots, and yoga helps you find those spots.
Yes, exactly. And even when you say that, it reminds me how you have said, I'm pretty sure, like you squeeze the muscle almost to fatigue it, so it has to let go, and then all the charge is
Yeah, it's like it can't hold energy if it's being squeezed for a long time. Yeah,
yes. And
yeah.
it's interesting, like when you were explaining your process, I was like, yeah, yeah, that's what I do. I'm like, oh, I do the opposite. I relax, 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 and talk to my muscle to relax, and then it will come out. So it's like coming from two different angles.
Mm.
I feel like it's really good for you to have said that, because I feel like there'll be people that'll resonate, especially with tight muscles. Like, do you feel like that's where you start? Wherever's really tight and not feeling good, you tense it because it's probably holding on to the charge.
Mm.
Is that what
Yeah. So
you're for?
yeah, so particularly when I'm in front of the computer all the time, I get like
Yeah. Yeah.
under pressure, and it all like sits on my shoulders, and I can just move it around and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
find the sore point, hold it, squeeze it, and then hold my breath around it, like squeeze it, and then yeah, it just gives it up. It has to,
Yes.
and then I yeah.
So that's you basically just doing a scan. Like I could just scan and go, I feel sad. If I can release tears. And then obviously you can lean into storylines, oh, I'm not feeling good or whatnot. And then you scan, sorry, something's happened. Someone's pissed me off or something. Then you go and you find that and you link that. Um, the other thing I will say that I like, wow, it was amazing in sessions where when you're in that mode and I would say something like call something out or whatever, and we go, is it something to do with certain person in your life, or is this about the voice or whatever, where there was truth, you'd get the jolt. It was like a point of truth for you when you're in that
Yeah,
mode as well.
yeah, yeah. It does help me make. It's a little bit like a pendulum as well for me. Like
Yes.
as I said, so I'm finding a whole different mode of things. But if I ask a question about something,
Yeah.
my body tremors in different ways for yes, no answers. So
Yep.
it does help me
Yeah.
make.
Connect to your divine self by clearing the shit.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like I'm walking along and then I'll hear something and then I'll get a tremor come through, and that's almost like that wake up, that
Yeah.
notification saying pay attention to that as well.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, like a tap on the shoulder from your angels. So yeah, like to me, I see you can do it totally consciously, but it's also almost a subconscious thing too. It's like your divine kick up the bum when you need it as well.
Mm. Mm.
Once, and I can see you're so much in that mode and connected in that, then once you're connected in like that, then you go through life. Yeah, playing the game of life in that way. It's your inner tool. Hey, like you don't need a pendulum on the outside when you've got your own inner one.
Yeah.
Anything else to say before we finish up at all on the topic?
Yeah, well, for me, touring is just something that's come about accidentally. But there is like a structured course called TRE, which helps people start touring, and that's like holding your body, which is sort of a similar thing, exhausting,
Yeah.
holding your legs like it's a little bit like qigong, where you've got to hold for a long time, and then your body starts doing that shaking.
Yep.
Like there's a structured way of starting doing that, but that's probably a good way is something like qigong or holding,
Yep.
or yoga and doing these squeezes for long times, and then you might find that that's a way of getting it started.
Yep. And I will say, because we were talking before, you in the presence of other people doing it tends to set people off, and I could just about join in. And so I'm so big on these days. People don't need courses necessarily. You can do it, and you might get you one golden key or something that you needed out of it. But it could just be in the presence of Jeff. So if you want to sit here, anyone watching, to just do that and actually just explore, and it's the practice of going inwards. Hey, like you've literally just explored and worked things out. Without giving up. I mean, obviously it came upon you, so that's the biggest thing. You kind of know if it's something that is for you or not. And I would say it's the starrier people, not the earthier people that are, heavier to the ground gravity. That's where, because it's lifting. But in saying that, when I feel heavy, I know that's exactly what I need is tremoring or, anything light to lift it and lift the charge up and out than feeling that stagnation, which, could be just heaviness in the neck, that denseness. Yeah, you need the spring to get it going again. So
Mm.
yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for your wisdom. And this is a piece of gold. So thank you, Jeff.
Welcome.
Take care.